Today, we're going to learn the forehand topspin loop. We need to understand why your drive is good, but your loop is not. A common misconception is that the contact point for a loop and a drive are the same, but they are different. Right now, my racket angle is set for a drive. This shows that the mechanics for a drive and a loop are fundamentally different. For a drive, keep the racket face slightly open, and let the upper arm lead the forearm forward to meet the ball. In a drive, the upper arm moves forward first, leading the forearm to the ball. After contact, your forearm finishes inward, towards the space between your eyebrows. For a loop, you must first close your racket angle, though the overall motion is still led by the upper arm. While both strokes are led by the upper arm, the moment of contact is where they significantly differ. The basic framework of using the upper arm to lead the forearm is constant for both the drive and the loop. So why do you lose the feeling of friction and trajectory when you try to loop? Because a drive requires the forearm to push through the ball. Applying this same mechanic to a loop will cause problems. This is the reason why you can't loop well. You've developed a habit of pushing forward with your forearm for a drive, and you carry that same habit into your loop. You might land the shot in practice because you're relaxed, stationary, and not using full power. However, technical flaws are exposed in a real match. Think about it, you see many players at the club who loop by pushing their arm forward. This happens because they are used to driving the ball, so they push forward when they try to loop. You'll see all kinds of forward-pushing loop motions. The key difference is the trajectory. A drive moves through the ball, while a loop creates an arc upward from the point of contact. If you use a drive's trajectory for your loop, you will never achieve the feeling of wrapping around the ball like a pro. This is the critical difference. Let's use a backspin ball as an example, as it makes the concept clearer. If you try to loop a backspin ball with a forward driving motion, you'll be forced to lift your arm straight up to compensate. Are you finding the transition from driving to looping particularly tough? This is because your drive muscle memory is to push the elbow and forearm forward, then finish. In a loop, upon contact, the forearm and elbow must provide a stable base, allowing the forearm, fingers, and wrist to perform an external and internal rotation. The upper arm still leads the forearm, but at the instant of contact, you need forearm rotation, abduction and adduction. The common mistake is letting the elbow and shoulder push forward after contact, which forces the forearm to only lift upwards. This is why you struggle to loop backspin and why your shots from mid-distance lack power. At this point in the stroke, you must keep your forearm and racket face closed. When the upper arm brings the forearm to the ball, it must stay stable and execute the rotation. You should not be simply pushing or lifting with your elbow and forearm. This concept will be a complete game changer for your loop. To wrap the ball correctly, you must follow this principle. Think of looping this way: at the moment of contact, your racket must create a small, semicircular trajectory. Therefore, a drive can be understood as an angular, linear motion. A loop, on the other hand, must be fluid and rounded. Your racket itself must trace an arc to wrap around the ball, like you're hugging it. A topspin loop is about wrapping the ball on both the forehand and backhand, not pushing or lifting it. Second key point: when looping a topspin ball, do not intentionally add extra friction. I'm sure many of you have looped a topspin rally ball long and out of bounds. For example, I can loop consistently while standing still, but the moment I add footwork, the ball flies off the table. This often happens because your wrist is too loose. Looping a topspin ball does not require excessive, deliberate wrist rotation to create friction. Instead, your fingers should stabilize the racket angle, pressing forward and brushing the ball. Any use of the fingers at contact should be extremely brief. It is absolutely not a large, upward flicking motion. If your opponent's shot is fast or has spin, you must lock your wrist completely. Don't use your fingers, just use your stroke timing to hit the ball. The key is to use your power to brush and control the ball. Even if I keep my racket angle fixed like this, my stroke naturally creates friction. You don't need to consciously add more friction. Doing so adds too much forward force at contact, which will always make the ball go long. As long as I keep my angle closed and brush from one point on the ball to another, it will naturally generate spin. You are looping a topspin ball at the top of the bounce or on the rise, not fishing a low ball from a distance. Therefore, do not deliberately rotate your fingers and wrist. Against a slow ball, you can use your fingers to push forward slightly, but the action is very short. If the ball is coming fast, don't use any wrist. Close the racket angle over the top middle of the ball and snap your forearm inward rapidly. This is the only way to guarantee a high-quality topspin that lands consistently. For both forehand topspin loops and backhand rips, your racket face must remain stable. This stability allows you to generate power without making unforced errors. The slightest wobble in your racket, especially with footwork, will result in a miss. Remember, more finger and wrist action is not always better. In high-speed topspin rallies, if you want more spin, lock your racket angle and execute the stroke. Do not flick your wrist or fingers, or the ball will go out. Now for the third key point, the upper arm. The upper arm is crucial for the topspin loop, but it's less important for a flat drive. In looping, the closer you are to the table, the smaller your upper arm movement should be. The farther you are, the larger it should be. For amateur players, when looping a backspin ball, the heavier the spin, the more you need to engage your upper arm. While this isn't true for professionals, for amateurs, lifting with the upper arm is an effective way to get a heavy backspin ball over the net. So for amateurs, the more spin, the more upper arm you use. The less spin, the less upper arm you use. In a topspin rally, the role of the upper arm is to lead the forearm. Many amateur players don't move their upper arm at all, they just wave their hand around. This is a very common problem. For a drive, the upper arm acts as a stable pivot, staying in a fixed position. When you step back to loop, the upper arm must swing back and then forward to lead the forearm. As you move farther back, this swing becomes larger. The farther back you are, the larger the back and forth swing of your upper arm needs to be. When you are close to the table for a forehand drive, your upper arm should be fixed at your side. As you step back, open it up more. Step back further, open it even more. The movements are coordinated. Think of it in zones. For short balls, there's no upper arm. For half-long balls, you use the forearm. For drives, it's the forearm. For a quick loop, the upper arm leads the forearm. For a power loop from a distance, the upper arm's range of motion is even bigger. The point isn't to stop using your upper arm, but to use the upper and lower arm correctly based on your position. The more appropriate your stroke is for your position, the more consistent you will be. For example, when I'm playing from mid to long distance, I use a larger swing with my upper arm. But as soon as the opponent returns a half-long ball, I have to shorten that swing and reduce the movement of my upper arm. This is how I ensure the ball lands on the table. Proper use of the upper arm is vital, and it's often related to why many players can't generate power. When you're far from the table, if your arm swing is too small, the ball will hit the net. You need to open up your swing. As you move closer to the table, your motion must become more compact. Keep the upper arm tucked in to maintain control. The size of your swing is controlled by your upper arm. The forearm has a limited range. It's by managing the upper arm that you control the entire stroke and ensure consistency. Whether your forehand shot lands on the table depends on your ability to adjust your upper arm, making the swing bigger or smaller as needed. My microphone just flew off and hit me in the chin. Good thing my chin is real, or the fillers would have been knocked out of place. To land your forehand and prevent it from going long, you must control your upper arm and keep the swing from getting too big. If your shots from mid-distance always hit the net, you need to use more of your upper arm to clear it. So, the topspin loop doesn't have that many complex technical requirements. If you correct what I've discussed today and learn to control your upper arm, you'll be fine. If the ball goes long, use less upper arm. If it hits the net, use more upper arm to create a longer trajectory. That's how you make your topspin loop consistent. This is the key. Many people think that when the ball goes long, it's because their follow-through was too slow. That's only part of it. If your upper arm swing is too large, the ball will go long no matter how fast you finish. Only by controlling your upper arm can you prevent the ball from going out.